November 9, 2025. In Aurora Province, dawn breaks as a super typhoon strikes with winds reaching 185 kilometers per hour. Over 1.3 million people are forced from their homes, thousands crammed into shelters built for far less. As evacuation centers overflow and officials scramble to respond, the scale of Fung-wong's aftermath leaves a nation holding its breath. What happens when even the best preparations aren't enough? At 4:20 in the early morning, Aurora Command Center went to full alert. Rain hammered the coastline as wind readings climbed past 185 kilometers per hour, with gusts reaching 230 kilometers per hour. PAGASA radar loop showed the eye wall closing in, each frame tightening the window for last-minute calls. Dinalungan weather station recorded a pressure drop and wind surge, confirming super typhoon status as the eye crossed the shore. Inside the provincial crisis room, Governor Rommel Angara and his team worked by radio and flashlight. All travel for officials was barred. Emergency teams mapped evacuation routes in real time, double-checking upland sites and low-lying barangays most at risk. Food and medical supplies, over 2 million packs, were staged in school gyms and churches, ready for rapid deployment. Hourly VHF updates tracked field teams as the first reports of downed power lines and rising floodwaters came in from Bela and Kasigaran. PAGASA senior forecaster, on air before sunrise, warned that signal number 5 remained in effect. The forecaster said, "We are seeing sustained winds at 185 kilometers per hour, gusts to 230 kilometers per hour. This is a super typhoon. Residents in all affected zones must stay sheltered until all clear is given." The command center log shows every major agency, disaster, police and military was on standby, lines open, waiting for status checks from remote barangays. Governor Angara later recalled that our priority in those 6 hours was to move as many families as possible inland and uphill. Every team was double-checking evacuation maps. We knew from Kalmaigi we could not afford delay again. As the first light broke, the province faced the full force of Fung-wong. Roofs ripped away, trees snapped, and the sound of corrugated iron and shattered glass carried above the storm. In those first moments, the numbers told the story, wind meters spinning past their limits, rainfall totals climbing by the minute, and command radios alive with urgent calls. The decisions made in those hours would determine how many lives could be protected before the next crisis began. Mass evacuation. Long before sunrise, the roads leading out of Aurora and neighboring provinces filled with headlights. Government vans, private cars, and trucks packed with families moved in slow columns toward inland towns and upland shelters. By the time the wind reached its peak, more than 1.3 million people had left their homes across Luzon and the eastern seaboard. Some evacuation centers, like the gymnasium in Bela, reached capacity within hours, with families spreading mats across basketball courts and classroom floors. In Nueva Vizcaya, the local social welfare officer scrolled through spreadsheets, tracking arrivals against available space. Overflow centers opened in church halls and even covered markets, but the numbers kept climbing. By the morning of November the 10th, over 318,000 people remained in government shelters, according to NDRRMC tallies. Shelter managers worked through the night, rationing food packs and bottled water. Volunteers from the Red Cross and local health units set up makeshift clinics, treating fevers, minor wounds, and anxiety attacks. On the ground, the strain was visible. Long lines for toilets, shared sleeping spaces with little privacy, and the constant hum of worried voices. In one school-turned-shelter in Isabela, a nurse recounted how insulin and hypertension medications ran out before dawn. Children with coughs and elderly evacuees with chronic illness waited for mobile health teams that struggled to reach every site as roads flooded or became blocked with debris, stretched thin. For many, this was not the first evacuation in recent memory. Just a week earlier, Typhoon Kalmaigi had forced thousands into the same centers. Now, with Fung-wong's arrival, resources were stretched thin. Some families described being separated from relatives during the rush, unable to reconnect as phone networks faltered. The Department of Social Welfare and Development tried to prioritize vulnerable groups, including pregnant women, the elderly, and persons with disabilities, but space and staff were limited. Safe rooms were quickly filled, others slept side by side on concrete floors, sharing blankets and food rations. No easy answers. Shelter managers and local officials faced decisions with no easy answers, whether to move people again as water levels rose, how to allocate dwindling supplies, how to reassure parents and children who had lost homes, or worse. The evacuation saved lives, but the cost was measured in exhaustion, uncertainty, and the silent hope that the storm would soon pass. As the wind faded, the question remained, where would these families go next, and what would they return to when the doors of the shelters finally opened? In Barangay Diadi, Nueva Vizcaya, the Perez family lost both children when a mudslide crashed through their shelter at 4:10 in the morning. The parents recalled the rumble that woke them, a warning from neighbors barely reaching them before the earth gave way. By the time rescuers arrived, the hillside had swallowed half the house. Emergency logs show local tanods and neighbors dug with bare hands until first light. But there was nothing more to be done. In the evacuation center, the Perez parents sit quietly among dozens of families. A Red Cross counselor offers words, but grief runs deeper than exhaustion. The father says they need more than food. They need help to keep going. In Catanduanes, a man was swept away when floodwaters surged through his home. Neighbors tried to reach him, but the current was too strong. In Catbalogan, flying debris struck and killed another resident just after dawn, as winds tore roofs from houses and sent metal sheets spinning through the streets. Hospital records from the region list dozens of injuries, broken bones, deep cuts, and cases of hypothermia after hours spent stranded in the rain. Rescue teams faced impossible odds. In San Pablo, Isabela, the Coast Guard airlifted 11 people from rooftops after rising water trapped them overnight. The pilot log records wind gusts shaking the helicopter as crew members pulled families to safety one by one. In the words of a regional emergency room physician, every patient was scared, cold, and hungry, but the worst wounds were the ones they could not treat with stitches. Rescue remained urgent and dangerous. These are the stories behind the numbers. Each loss, each rescue, a reminder of the risks responders face and the lives forever changed in the storm's path. Floodwaters swallowed entire neighborhoods in northern Luzon, submerging 132 villages overnight. At dawn on November 10, Laguna de Bay's water level hit 12.7 meters, well above the critical threshold, forcing hydrologists to issue urgent warnings for communities along the shore. A tense 20-minute delay in opening the floodgates sparked debate among local officials, with downstream barangays blaming protocol reviews for worsening the inundation. By morning, dozens of families in low-lying towns found themselves stranded on rooftops, waiting for rescue teams to navigate submerged streets. Landslides in the uplands cut off access to villages in Cordillera and Cagayan Valley. FIVOLC's geomorphologists later explained that relentless rainfall from back-to-back typhoons left mountain soils dangerously saturated. The Tinoquiangan Artery, a lifeline for relief convoys, was buried under tons of debris, isolating entire communities for days. Maps from the Department of Public Works showed blocked roads fanning out like broken veins, each closure delaying the arrival of food, water, and medical teams. Cascading blackouts swept across 170 towns as the storm battered Luzon. Restoration crews scrambled to prioritize hospitals and evacuation centers, but water supply failed in 15 municipalities and telecommunications went dark in 14. The NDR-RMC spokesperson confirmed that more than 894 search and rescue teams were deployed, but with so many areas cut off, relief moved slowly. Over 2 million food packs were staged, yet bottlenecks at every turn left thousands waiting. The declared state of calamity, issued days before Fung-wong's landfall, allowed emergency funds to flow, but the sheer scale of damage tested every system to its limit. Climate scientists pointed to sea surface temperatures running 1.4 degrees Celsius above normal in the Philippine Sea, a signal that storms like Fung-wong are only getting stronger and the risks more complex. For those on the ground, the aftermath was not just about flooded streets and broken power lines. It was about the grinding pace of relief in a country where every minute counts. Climate data confirms typhoons are growing stronger as ocean temperatures rise. For over 1 million Filipinos, disaster is no longer a distant threat. It is a recurring reality. Local resilience cannot keep pace with storms that intensify each year. The next landfall is not a question of if, but when.